Have you ever met those people who carry degrees around like they're Boy Scout badges? They went to this Ivy League for that degree and this top school for another degree. But when someone asks them, what have they actually accomplished career-wise? They can't really tell you. They're professional stamp chasers. And the question I always ask myself is, how does that happen to someone? The reality is they've misunderstood something very simple. Your degree isn't a career strategy. Let me explain how not to turn into one of these people. If you play any sort of modern RPGs or other hybrid sorts of games, there's one feature you frequently see game developers employ: character advancement through increasing character skills. You have to work at different tasks to start to level up in different status bars in your profile, right? Maybe you're getting better at fighting, for example. The more you do a certain task, the better you get at it, and the more skills you have. And then these skills then help you later in the game on whatever main or side quests you have to do. Well, guess what? These features are actually a model of the real world. And you can think of your degree the same way. It's a tool set, not a plan. It's not an identity. Basically, if you spend your entire life trying to get an MBA or become entranced by your major, then you've missed the point. Your degree isn't a map to follow for your entire career. It's the price of admission to get into the game. Why is this important? If you don't have a fundamental goal or destination in your career, you'll spend your time on side quests, achieving this or that, but not doing anything of consequence. And the worst thing I see that a lot of people that I work with have is a sense of regret. What if I had a better career goal when I was younger? Where would I be today? What would I have accomplished? What if I had more conviction about that path or starting a business? The reason they have this regret is that their degree became their identity, and it was sort of a moving walkway that dumped them into a future they never really chose. They lost agency. So what does that look like in real life? You might get a degree, and then what's expected of you is to get an MBA, and then you go do that, and then you would get into a job in banking, let's say, and you spend 10 years there, and suddenly you're in your mid-40s, and you're trying to figure out, how did you end up in this place? You're making a ton of money, but was it really what you wanted to do? Do you feel good about the work that you're doing? I've seen many people, not just in banking, but in many different career paths, where they didn't really know what they were getting into. They just kind of followed the herd. So how do you rediscover your ability to decide? How do you see a degree for what it truly is, and then use it to accomplish something real? Now, these are 4 questions you should be asking yourself to figure out how to chart your course. First question is, what game do you want to play? Do you want to be in a small business? Do you want to be in a big business or a startup? Now, different types of businesses usually offer different compensation packages and different ways of working. If you're in a small business, you're going to be probably wearing more hats. If you're in a bigger business, you're going to be more specialized, and a startup essentially is an extremely small business, right? So the second question is, what industries or business departments open up to me because of my degree? Answering that question will help you start seeing your degree the proper way, as an entry into a world of many possibilities. Once you know what industry or business department you want to be in, you can really hone in on where you want to be, what you want to do. And by answering those questions, you're going to be able to more easily tie your overall career goal and the accomplishments you want to achieve to your path. Next question, where do I think I want to end up in my career? What would make me feel fulfilled? And so for this question, it's really helpful to ask yourself, what level do you want to achieve? So at this point, if you know what kind of business you want to be in, and then what industry or business department, you can get really specific. You can be the director of HR, or a finance manager, or even a CEO. The more specific you get, the more intentional your plan can be to get to that point. And then finally, what skills are going to help me get to my goal? So that question is going to help you realize what additional skills you need to gain to get to where you want to get to. So the way to do that is to start studying people who've taken that path and what skills they had to gain. So what we really walk through here is a set of questions that start from the top level, at the highest level of thinking about what sort of company do I want to work for, all the way down to what skills I need to gain. Do I need to learn how to manage people? Do I need to get better at understanding financial statements? Do I need to learn about HR? Do I need to learn about this or that? And then what you realize is your degree should be giving you those skills. And so that's why your major is just a starting point to get to your goal. So why does this matter now? Well, if you don't pick your career strategy, someone else will. Your recruiter, your professor, your parents, your coworkers, your friends. Anyone who sees any potential in you is gonna start daydreaming for you. Sometimes it's involuntary. Here's an example, one that actually happened to me. Once upon a time, I was a young engineering student trying to figure out my next steps. I was in junior year and I was a little young for my cohort of friends, but basically we got an opportunity to go meet with our professors once in a while just to see what they were doing and just to kind of network a little bit. So one day I went up to the professor in one of my engineering classes, great guy, and he had a grad student there as well. And I was there with one of my friends, and we both were gonna go meet up with them and just see what's going on, just to say hello. And when I met up with them, the professor and the grad student randomly asked me how old I was. And I said I was 20. And so they were surprised because, as I mentioned, I was a little bit young for my cohort, but they looked at each other, and then you could kind of see circuits firing in both of their brains. So for the next 5 minutes, they started to brainstorm how I could get a PhD by the time I was in my mid-20s. The reality is, while all of that sounded great, I had no interest in getting a PhD in engineering. Like, I wanted to get out in the field, I wanted to eventually maybe start a business and all that sort of thing. But the bigger question for me is, why were they planning out my future for me? As we've had this discussion today, we realize we know why. They took my degree and they made it my identity. I had this happen to me many times after that. Someone saw whatever I was doing at a particular point in time and they constructed this whole identity out of it. And luckily for me, I was a very stubborn person, so I never let those plans affect what I wanted to do. But how many people just let that happen? How many people just get talked into something because they don't have a core understanding of who they are and what they should be doing? Don't let that happen to you. It's like the biggest potential killer I've seen in my life. I've known many family and friends and colleagues where someone's like kind of talked them into something where it's really not a good thing for them to do, but wherever they were at that moment seemed like their entire world. They weren't able to imagine what else was out there for them, right? One of the big takeaways I hope you walk away from this video with is that you need to figure out, with each role or degree you take or job, ask yourself this question: is it a destination or is it a place you need to learn a skill to move on to the next level? It's a really profound question because sometimes I've talked to people where they're having these difficulties in figuring out what they want to do with their life and they can't think outside of where they are today. And when you start asking yourself this question, you'll stop stressing about every experience you have because you know it's going to be building to something greater. So stay ahead of the curve and define your vision. And so what's important is when you define your career vision, use your degree as a starting point instead of the be-all, end-all. So to sum it all up, your degree is a sign and very often just a starting point. But your strategy is your career progression, the experiences you have, your reputation, the relationships you make along the way, the momentum. Your major is not necessarily the plan, but it's the beginning of one.